Hearing none, we will move forward with the capital improvement plan as italicized under the caption. There will be no official business or action by the council taken tonight. This is just more or less an informative and a directive meeting.
One quick
Go ahead.
question, just because I don't know. Camden traveled tonight. Do we want to go over that? Or are you sticking around regardless? If we do you first and then the,
I'll stick around.
okay, so it don't
You
matter
sure?
which one we do. Okay.
All right,
Never
thank
mind.
you for
Disregard.
that, though. You betcha. Justin Heim is from the, is going to talk about the work session with SG Engineering, and I'll just let him do the introductory part and then proceed with the information he has to present, so
Yeah,
welcome.
absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council, again for the work session here. So really the goals of tonight is to get some conversation going back and forth. I know you guys, looks like you guys all had a chance to review the draft capital improvement plan. Really tonight, just want some feedback on it, what your guys' thoughts are. And you know, maybe really starting out with one question is really what do you guys see the city's goals, call it for the next 5 years immediately, and really be able to work this plan around the city's goals. As we presented last time, I know SBN has helped out a lot with a lot of utility upgrades within the city. You know, I'd say your guys' core infrastructure looks pretty good based on the years leading up to this on focusing on that. A lot of times when we come into a community, we're looking at that and doing a lot of stuff you guys have already done. A lot of the improvements that we have identified and that we've talked about last time is more looking on the vertical side. You know, the city hall, new facilities that we can share, accommodate some of the tight spaces between those areas, conversation on a new pool, some of those items. So just want some confirmation on the direction on that, see what the city's goals are, if there's any developments that you guys have top of mind or anything that has hindered, you know, call it a potential opportunity coming into the city, right? If you guys had a proposal come through GoEd and it's like, we just keep missing on these key elements here. If we have some of that conversation, we can work towards building it into the plan. It may not be something that we get done in 2 years, 3 years, but if we have it top of mind, work it in, try to figure out a strategy to get to some of those items. It'll help you guys achieve your goals at the end of the day. I believe I mentioned too, I don't want this to be an ISG plan, I want this to be a City of Miller plan, right? We're definitely leveraging a lot of information that you guys have done in the past. We don't want to disregard that. There's a lot of hard work pulled into the facility plans, everything. So that's where we started taking all that existing information, pulling it together, adding our twist on it. And now's the time to get your guys' input and get this geared towards you guys. So
I think this is just me talking to begin with. You know, as far as moving forward, I think there's a consensus. I shouldn't say that. For me, the infrastructure work with regard to electricity, water, sewer, and things of that sort is, I feel we've made progress on that, and I'm looking kind of for a consensus on that, and you know, with regard to that, and so I think what we're just looking for, more or less, what do we want to concentrate on? Of course, this is going to take maybe input from input from each of the department heads, the knowledge that each one of us have, as well as the community with regard to some things that are important too as well, that we're need to be looking at too. So anyway.
My opinion on things, just because we haven't really had a group discussion about things in general. My thought on where I feel the city is right now is we did do the main infrastructure and got that up to speed, so now we're kind of in a recovery mode for a little bit, so I don't feel as though an aggressive plan on a lot of stuff is on the wants. I would still keep a good eye on the needs that are going to, if we don't address them, are going to cause us more of a financial burden if we don't address them. But my feeling is we're just kind of in a recovery mode, that we do need to make a plan for this in the future so we can budget for it without adding any more cost other than just out of our general fund, but that's my thought, is just kind of where I feel that I would be at as a council member, is just, we're kind of in recovery mode where we need to look at it, but not get super aggressive with getting everything on the list all at once to the point where we're strapping for money.
And I would concur with that, you know, with regard to, I think we've asked, you know, community members with regard to helping fund the projects that we have thus far. And, you know, but at the same time, not, we're, you know, playing catch-up with regard to some of the things that are going to need to be done or choose to go forward with, you know, in the future, so.
Yeah, I think a few good comments that I heard there, you know, we still want to focus on, call it the maintenance and upkeep of those current items, which I think is
Yeah.
always top of mind, right? You know, right now, we didn't have anything within this draft report, it was on mine, but what should we look at? Maintenance, budgeting for streets, you know, utilities, whatever that may be. And having that budget, having that top of mind, having that focused, that way 20, 30, 40 years down the road, you guys don't run into that other point where it's, you know, catching up, getting a lot of stuff done at one time. Mayor, to your point too, department heads have been really great on providing input, so, I mean, thank you to those guys. They gave a lot of information, and really understanding, you know, some of the stuff with Dustin too. It's like, within our report, identified some of the flooring, you know, easy example. Let's focus that priority on, you know, maybe planning for another
Yeah.
building or something like that. We can live with this right now, and getting that good gauge from those guys has been super helpful on prioritizing, at least on that first level, right? We'll start with that existing level, get to there, and then that's where the information got to present, so.
And I think moving forward with some of the projects that we've had and are looking to try to secure additional funding with regard to the grants, some of the programs that are out there. And, you know, so if we can, you know, be in cooperation with our state government and federal government, some of the programs they come down, we want to keep ourselves in position so we could utilize that. Granted, they don't fund the whole thing, but they do fund a greater proportion of that. I think with the airport, I think what city is responsible for, federal government pays 90%, like the 90%. And so I think between the city and the state, we're required, you know, additional 10%. So when somebody provides those avenues, if something that is in need, I'm thinking about out to the J.C. Terry complex with regard to the baseball, we're not able to move forward right now with that plan, but maybe in the near future go ahead.
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring up. So maybe twofold. In the back of the report, we do have some of those funding mechanisms just for reference, you know, some of the basic programs. But understanding that it may be now, you guys can still put us to work, say, hey, we have this idea of this project. It may not fit within that 5-year plan, but there's also that future category, right? If we identify the project, we come up with some high-level cost. It puts you in the ballpark when those opportunities do come up. Hey, does this project fit? We already kind of know what the cost is, can do a quick analysis. Okay, the city's gonna have to cover 20%, 10%, whatever it may be. And we know that number, and that may slide up, be able to fit into your budget within that 1 to 5 year plan based on the funding that comes out, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes those opportunities come up all of a sudden.
Yes, they do.
I know with regard to the fire hall, I think that was the funding that was handed down, and it took a while to secure the funding. I think we went through, I know Governor Janklow and both governor rounds to finally secure the assistance with regard to the new fire hall. So it is a process, but you've got to be in position to be able to, again, capitalize on that.
Absolutely. Like another example too, I think a pretty recent example is some of the housing authority dollars that came out, right? State saw a need with housing in the state of South Dakota. There's a lot of communities or developers or EDOs that had parcels of land identified. Those that had some of the cost identified and some of those concepts, we're able to react really quick to that funding and be top of line, front of line on that.
Yeah.
On some of that funding, it's first come, first served too. So if you at least have a start, it helps get the ball in motion to react to it.
And this is, you know, for just more like, for knowledge for all of us, and that's why you're here, that's why Camden's here, and with Northeast Council of Government with Ted Dickey, I mean, with regard to individuals of that sort and entities of that sort helping us, you know, we can stay on top of some things that we can, you know, capitalize on by utilizing sources of revenue available to us, that we don't have to flip the entire bill.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things we need to, and probably early on the 5-year plan, if that's what we're looking at doing, is right above your head on this building, the roof, if it's 20 years old and it's already got leaks and we got old mechanical stuff up there that's not being used anymore, I would think that would be one of the first things we'd want to look at. If that thing starts to fail or fails any worse than it is now, then what's it gonna ruin inside here? You know, walls, flooring.
Absolutely.
So that to me would be our top priority.
I agree.
And I think some upgrading that has taken place. This council room, for example, all the plumbing and the restroom facilities have been upgraded, you know, so there's, and the wall, you know, so there's been, in very, you know, utilized business or building, and so to keep it going in that direction, you know, it's something that would be looked at seriously.
So what would your suggestion be for a productive meeting? Do we just want to go through all of the recommended projects and just start talking about them and then going back and figuring out what we talk about for years, or?
So I think the biggest thing for us right now is if we get, based on priority of those projects, so if we do go through that list real quick, you know, either 1 to 10, 1 being highest, 10 being low, that will give us a good game plan. We'll take that back, we'll match that up with the financials, and then that next draft report, we'll start to see how everything falls into place within that 5-year plan. And that still gives you guys another opportunity to comment on it, because once we see everything fall in place, maybe we have some different thoughts, move some stuff around. But not only on this list too, if you guys reviewed it and you had other things come to mind that we need to add on top of here, we can hit those at the end too.
So, one as a city as a whole or per section? So like, are we ranking like City Hall,
So
just those for City Hall, or throughout the whole vision of the city?
I would say the whole vision of the city.
Okay.
Yep. And generally, right now, how we have them ranked, so within that City Hall portion, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 along the side. That ranking was based on our meetings with department heads. So they're kind of semi-prioritized already, with those first ones being on top. But if we have that prioritization across the city, you know, we understand we may have 4 ones, you know, we don't necessarily need to try to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now, but just that general gauge on what's top of mind, and then we'll work that in.
I guess I would agree with Dale on investigating the roof on ways to salvage what we already have type of deal, instead of going new, just maintaining what we have already and keeping it in good standing condition.
Preventative maintenance.
Yes, preventative maintenance.
So on this deal, the number 4, the exterior masonry improvements, if we don't fix that right away and the moisture gets in, is that gonna cause problems for the interior?
You know, with that preventative maintenance, it's one of those things, you know, the longer you delay it, the worse condition it gets, and then you just end up with stuff. I think another easy example is like your asphalt pavement, right? If we don't treat it, if we don't overlay it, if we don't seal it, that just deteriorates. So with some of these recommendations, you'll see throughout there too, it's, you know, equipment's in good working order, but the average lifespan is 20 to 25 years, and we're sitting on year 26, right? So do we need to replace it tomorrow? Based on the working condition, no, but it's something to keep in mind and start thinking about and at least have a budget. if we wanna be proactive, if it works in the budget, that's where we pull the trigger and replace and do some of that stuff, so.
Yeah, because I was wondering if that shouldn't be in a you know, like number 2. You want to have your shell secure so that you don't have any more damage coming into the building. If that's,
If I recall,
We ha-
based on our facility review to the roof versus the exterior, the roof was prioritized as a
Right.
bigger need than the exterior on that too, based on our findings as well.
yeah, because I definitely agree that the roof is pretty important, because like you say, we've already got some leak issues in here. You can see it on the tile.
Justin, your light's on that mic, isn't it?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
all right, just want to make sure. Thank
If
you.
I need to talk louder, just let
No,
me
no,
know.
no, 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 I just want, yeah.
And I think, you know, as we look at other things that are on here that are priority, some of the projects have options ahead of time, like the secure entrance. There is some, I don't wanna say lower options, but I mean, there is options to do where it is a locked door that you have to be keyed in the meantime until we do a structure type of deal, you know, so there's.
Right.
Some of these things aren't an all or nothing deal. So just wanna get to work and just start marking like the roof replacement, we'll just call that a 1. And maybe exterior improvements, 1 or 2, if that's kind of more urgent to just maintaining the building. I don't know what's wrong. What number's wrong, what number's right, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, either way.
Say building maintenance, that stuff is,
Outside of the roof on this place, a lot of what I see in here is things like light fixtures, carbon monoxide detectors, water heaters, that kind of stuff, and I don't, in, if the water heaters and heat unit, if that's really a $26,000 project, then that is something we should probably try to figure out how to budget. But on the other hand, I mean, lights, water heaters, faucets, stuff like that, it seems to me that you replace it when it quits.
Yeah,
That it's not an urgent thing until it's not working.
Yep.
When you're looking at $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, if we can just kind of start working towards having those departments have that in their budget every year so that we are prepared to make that expense. You don't really have to go out of your way to do that if you're ready for it, but also don't do it until you need to replace lights, water heaters, etc.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there. It's having that placeholder within your budget on the yearly basis, or, you know, understand that, you know, if you allocate $20,000 and you don't use it on year 1, roll it to year 2, right? Have that money sitting there versus that conversation, here in this room, like, hey, we have to get a new boiler, you know, new heater, whatever it may be. Where are we gonna pull those funds from, you know? Where are we gonna swap and get to pay for that, right? So, you know, it can be some of those high-level placeholders that we include, you know, within that 5-year plan to help with some of that budgeting portion. And understand that's gonna be a sliding scale, right? Doesn't need to be done now. If everything's working as is, perfect. Let's keep rolling.
You know, and that's, I think the two of the biggest costs, and correct me if I'm wrong, is number 1 is going to be the roof. And I do see a number of buildings, you know, traveling around, and then, I know when we went out to track meet out at Pier, a lot of exterior masonry work is going on. Is that the mortar work with regard to that? What is, I mean, when you talk about exterior masonry repairs, what is?
It's essentially
I know
that-
it talked
that-
about the doors and stuff of that sort, but
It's the mortar repair.
It is the
right?
mortar repair.
Yeah, so within our facility assessment, the note on here is, get over by the mic. Exterior walls are showing signs of moisture intrusion at the top. Textured finish is cracking throughout. There are areas where bricks are cracked and spalling, so just some of that wear and tear over time, you know, as stuff's cracking and spalling, to get in areas where moisture can intrude in there. Once the moisture gets in there, especially in our climate, the freeze thaw starts breaking stuff apart even more. So it's going through essentially sealing everything up.
And I think any people who know anything about construction, once that door opens, that window of opportunity opens for moisture or whatever else, it's a fast process with regard to
Yep.
deterioration, so.
Justin, I have a question for you. Would there be any economy of scale savings to combine those two improvements?
The question was, would there be any savings as far as combining the improvements and stuff?
And that is a great question. On some of those, I'll have to dig in a little bit more and understand, local contractor pool, if you're having the same contractor do the roof versus the exterior. Sometimes we'll find that that's the same contractor, sometimes those are two different contractors, and that's where it splits. But I like that question and the thought to think throughout here, because sometimes understanding, it's easier now to spend the $50,000 versus two $30,000 projects and spending $10,000 more down the road. The quick, easy example is all the water and sanitary sewer you guys do. It's a lot more efficient to replace both of those utilities at once versus separate, so.
Yeah, and then while we're talking about the roof, there's estimates on there, but then when we're doing it, we also need to think about what might be better than what's here, because we're kind of finding out flat roofs are maintenance hogs. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to entertain when we do plan that in the future, all that we look at other options of even having a slanted roof but we would have to pull the rooftop utilities off the rooftop and set them somewhere next to the building. I believe this is a fully flat roof, yeah.
Then we should check into silicone,
Silicone just in general, or,
silicone coating.
okay, yeah, there's,
I put silicone coating on my folks' house, and that's been a godsend.
quote me if I'm wrong, but this is, the big issue is we got rock on top of this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fake rock.
yes, yeah, they're finding that, they're arguing about that rock
My
now.
dad had taken the rock off and gone to rolled roofing, and the rolled roofing has to be replaced almost every 10 years.
Right.
And then, and I was getting too old to keep replacing it, so I finally put silicone on it. I put a layer in, had a spray foam, a layer of insulation on, and then silicone, and it's been a godsend.
Yeah, there's definitely other options to look at of
And
how
now
it gets
they have
done.
silicone that they'll guarantee for 50 years.
Yeah, so,
Just to add that this is a flat roof and the rooftop unit that is up there is no longer in use. We have central air to the house center of the building, new furnace and everything installed, so we can lift that off and get rid of that when that time comes. And I don't know where it's at, but I believe Shayla actually had drawings of a pitched roof on this building at one point, and I've been told that these walls were designed to have another story.
Oh,
Should take the weight of that, especially if you hear that snow load.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
That's just what I've been told. I got nothing to.
I would think for $184,000, we'd have a few options we could kind of work through.
yeah.
Mhm.
it
I would think
seems-
that would leave the door kind of open a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
throw that caveat in there because that's a good point. We did include, removal of the mechanical equipment as it's not in use anymore. And a lot of these numbers are square foot cost that the industry uses for, call it these concept level designs for the roof, right? Within this estimate, it's not specified the type unless there is a specific, cost difference between those are significant, so.
Did you have insulation underneath the new roof too on that?
I'm gonna assume
Because
our architects.
at
put that
one
together,
time, at one time, this was the second most heat losing building. And that included the old water shop, which was fire all the time. My street shop was there. Now, since we burned the wall, have you made a difference?
Yeah.
So you make your money back by insulating.
Yeah.
Years.
okay, I think we talked about, sorry, go ahead.
Going to if you're ready to move on to secure entrance, going to the trainings that we have, they have the shooter training and those speakers, and it scares you, and you never think it's gonna happen here. but I would like to see some security put into place soon.
You need it just what the school has, where they've got a little camera there, you hit the button, person in the office shows up, camera screen shows up, hit the button, they let you in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's the world's biggest inconvenience.
And that's something that, at the very least, that is something that can be done with the structure, the same structure, with the low voltage, door locks. That would be something like that could be put on more of a looking into soon deal, but the whole entrance as a whole doesn't necessarily have to be right immediately, but
Right, work on like a phase one where we still get the goals, the secure entrance, you know, buzzing in, allowing that and,
right, yeah. Because if we don't want them
For
in, they
that
can
full-
stand in the rain.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But I do know that there's other options, because then when
Yeah.
there's more thought to that. Of when
Yeah.
they come in, then they're essentially locked in there if there's someone that is dangerous.
Yeah.
But
And if that employer is carpentry work, I mean, there again, if we do something, the carpenter can do that at the same time as well.
And then moving on, I think the interior improvements would kind of slide back behind those.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Based on kind of order of operations and.
Yep.
Within the electric utilities, you know, having conversation with Dustin, the conversation was more focused on, you know, our existing structures works, you know, it's adequate for our use. We get by with it, focusing more effort on potential planning for another shared use structure, you know, to alleviate some space allocations in that regard, so.
Is that what you're meaning when, I've seen it multiple times where there's talk of a multi-use building? Is that what the
Yep.
intention was on your?
Yep.
Okay.
And Dustin, feel free to chime in if I misspoke there at all, so.
You're good. Carry it along.
Within the fire hall then, that kind of rolls into some of the, you know, items that we talked about earlier too, you know, the boiler replacement. You know, average useful life is 25 years, it's starting to get up on that, having some of that budget allocated to it. Another one of the big conversations that we talked about was the automatic switch gear on the generator. Essentially what that does, it's an automatic switch to make sure, you know, we're still getting power to the fire hall. The replaced flooring, we talked about that last time, how we're gonna strike that one off, as that one's already in process, so, maybe
Yeah.
some input on those two items.
The flooring was already replaced, or it's in plan to get replaced,
Yep.
it's just on order.
Yep.
I think you're just knowing about it, I think your estimated cost on the switchgear might be low,
Okay,
just knowing of how it was wired and why it didn't get put in the first place.
got it.
Because the wires, the way it was coming in, was sized for 200 amp, but then it's actually a rated 400 amp service. I believe a 400 amp switchgear inside. Because either 400 or the total is 800, and the wires are only 400, but it was half as big as it should have been when it showed up, and that's why a switchgear didn't get installed. Because it wasn't rated for the total load. I don't even know what a switchgear costs now. More than 10,
Yeah.
that size. I'll say just a house, 200 was 5
Yeah.
when I left.
So if we're looking at priorities on those, I think from what I'm hearing, the number one on the boiler replacement, the priority to budget's high. The actual priority of replacing those is one they're going to, you know, get their useful life. So maybe we put that 5 kind of in the middle based on that. Any input on that? you know, automatic switchgear, understanding it's gonna be more cost, a little bit more effort, but priority.
I'd say the switchgear would be really nice, but it's not it's a want, not a need, just
Yeah.
budgetary reason,
Convenience,
but we
yeah.
can look at it when we have budget, but do we have a one backup boiler already,
Do-
Ron? Or are they all three being used right now?
I
'Cause-
think, what we have for a backup, and I can't speak for Terry, is just a pump.
Okay, cause I know we have three boilers up on the utility wall. I couldn't remember if we used all three or if one was in a standby.
There are two used for where the trucks are, and one I think was for the feeding room, I believe.
Okay, then they're all three being used then.
I mentioned, I didn't hear you said anything, but maybe like a furnace type thing to heat the air. Cause when you open them doors up, if it's 10 below, you open them doors up and 5 trucks leave. When them doors come down, it is cold in there. Granted, the ground, the pavement,
Concrete.
concrete is warm, but it takes a while to get heat back in that place. Guy had just like a backup forced air heater of some sort to knock that out. Then if you do have a boiler go haywire, you got that as a backup also. Cause we did have a pump go out probably 10 years ago. It got pretty darn chilly in that, where the fire trucks are. It got down to what, 45 degrees, and you can't freeze a fire truck with full water. So, made it hard. I don't know what the deal was. They had a heck of a time getting pumps. It was pretty cold out. We were considering having like Bob's Gas bring a temporary pump, heater in there or whatever, just to get by. But by then they got the pump going. We were all right. It's food for thought.
Well, you know, Ron, and that's why I appreciate meetings of this sort, because some people might think, well, why do you need something like that? Well, you just indicated why you need something of that sort, you know, and to shed light on that with regard to some of the decisions that are made here. Some people may, why would you do that? Well, you know, it's a good point, so thank you for that.
So I'd say the fire hall as a general, I mean, I don't wanna say that we're never gonna touch it, but, I mean, just take a look at it and see what the options are, and then go from there. I feel like the building maintenance committee is gonna be awfully busy for a while, just going around and looking at stuff to identify different options in different ways, and some stuff might be surprising where we can do it just in budget as needed, but some stuff will have to be planned for the future.
Rolling into the police and water shop, if there's no other comments. In the fire hall there. Just a few of the things, you know, that we noted, some flooring replacement, security renovations, security no holding area for individuals waiting processing, that's the basis on that. The space programming, that kind of goes into a lot of that, you know, theme through some of these, you know, space programming, understanding what the needs are, what a new structure would look like, how is that chair to get the adequate size there. Electrical distribution, replacing some fixtures again with those. We can get a budget, installing you know, CO2 monitoring system. So based on those, is there any high priorities on that, or is this another structure where we're kind of looking, you know, call it, keep up with maintenance, get some budget items, replace as needed?
I know the flooring in the police shop is atrocious. It's kinda carpet still, not really. I don't know if you can call it carpet anymore, but,
No shag.
you know, I would at least like to get,
Yeah.
you know, quotes for what it would actually, what's a real cost
Yeah.
on at least seeing a quote before anything's obviously decided, but then your lights are also pretty bad too, aren't they?
The lights. Changed up. Yeah, we've done a lot of retrofits.
Oh, there, okay, cause I knew it,
But most of the lighting, I don't know why we wouldn't just keep doing that throughout.
no,
Most of the lighting, I wouldn't even worry about
no,
anymore.
that's fine. I just, I just couldn't remember exactly. I knew that were fluorescent at one time, but I couldn't remember if they're T12s or T8s or if we started retroing them over to LEDs. Okay.
We kinda snuck some of them in this year. We didn't get the highest quality ones, but it's way better than what it was. Cindy had asked me to think of other things, I came up with like a secure entryway.
He came up with holding cell, more secure evidence room, secure entryway, vestibule, kitchenette, bathroom updates, fixed drafty west door, and a key fob entry system.
So I think,
Would you be able to send me that list?
and it's another one of those deals where if someone is already coming to town and looking at the secure entrance, we could get a quote for them doing this and doing a secure
Yep.
entrance for those doors, you know, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Double dip on paying them to drive here once instead of. But I'd be in favor of seeing quotes on what secure entrances would be. What type of holding cell are you thinking about? Just something that similar to up there or at, okay, just, perfect. I can't remember, they have that one welded locally or, I guess at that time we had a weld shop in town, but,
I think it was.
yep. And then, well, Terry's not here for water shop on lights, I guess. I don't know how often they are maintaining in the water shop, or are they just more or less talking about like in that east maintenance shop
We,
or east end?
I've changed out a few lights over there too, but
Okay.
we did that in the street department, we changed all the lights to LED, and now you can actually see when you turn them on.
Alright. Did you guys,
And all we did is cut out the transformer, jump past it, put the LED. Would it take probably 10 minutes each light?
right.
Oh.
It's
No.
something that's, I kinda look at it as winter work.
okay,
Ron got ahead of us, we didn't get quite, Ron actually, his group did a lot of stuff there, but.
it's a lot of lighting,
Buy the bulb. and jump in and do it.
so a lot of lighting we might just forget about
Yeah.
and let Dustin and his crew assess.
Yeah. Hope for
Lighting.
another light winter.
Yeah, I know a lot of the exterior lights have already been replaced anyway, so I
Yeah.
mean, those are updated to a lot of LEDs, so.
Give it to Shasta or something.
I would say any place that you think we need to have a carbon monoxide detector, we should probably just do that.
I agree.
And I
I
think
don't
these
know that
ones
we really
are,
need to discuss that.
I think
don't
this
want
is
to get 'em.
different though.
I think that's.
It is
a
different?
Whole different deal, that's like,
It's like the system that's in the fire hall.
yeah, it turns on and actually turns fans on and everything else, I don't
Oh.
know, is that a Terry thing or?
That was one of the things our facility, when we did our facility assessment that identified, you know, it's starting to become more prevalent. The conversation that was had though, if you do have those fans on, it is sucking some of that air out, so then you need to start thinking about, you know, the winter time, what's that doing if it's sucking that air out at that time? So, understanding the need, the use, with those fans and those automatic systems and everything that's going on, so.
Cause I wanna say the one, the fire hall, was that installed from
New,
new? And was that almost a requirement
yes.
that had to get put in?
And to add what Jacob said, one day I was working cold time, late October, maybe early November, and that kicked on, well, the sensor went up.
Yep.
Well, when I went into the fire hall, it was very cold.
Yep.
I think such a thing as having an air exchanger is a good thing, but maybe have some other alarms that you physically turn it on rather than an automatic, because we had a hard time finding the sensors to replace them. If that ever goes on in like the fire hall, if that would've turned on at 3 in the morning by 7, you got a mess. auto, because I know we had a close call over there. That's my opinion.
And the big difference with, I don't know, I guess auto's auto regardless, they're gonna be gone during the day, but at least that one should at least be in daily, you know, they're gonna be in that building daily versus fire hall. Most of the time, there's someone there every day, but there's some times where it's not as active, so it might be a few days before someone walks into the fire hall. So I'd be curious to know what all this is gonna actually cost, you know, where we actually do get some actual numbers to see it, and then we can actually plan for a lot of it, but and I understand that these are well-educated estimates from people that work with it, but it'd just be nice to see actual numbers.
I think the last one on there, we talked quite a bit about the electrical distribution in that structure. Priority on that, maybe some input from you, Dustin, and others.
We're starting, I'm gonna do pole testing this week, and crew didn't show up, they're supposed to be here next week, but I did actually find one pole that had like a 1963 date. But, so, as far as the transmission line, we'll have to see what they find and so there, I guess.
Have you,
Sounds real promising already.
Yeah, I did.
have you done, it's been quite some time since I've done any electrical in the police and water shop. Have you looked at that recently?
I do know we need to fix the service on the back of the, police and water shop. It is hanging with an LV that's broke and, a bunch of conduit back there hanging. I need to get to it, it's on my board.
Okay.
That's fixed it.
I'd say, as of right now, since it's on Dustin's board, we'll just leave it on his board for now. I'm talking a lot. Someone else tell me to shut up.
You're doing really well.
Well, the thing is, yeah, and this is the, you know, and that's what I appreciate about the makeup of a council when you have individuals such as Patrick's experience with electricity. I mean, that's huge with regard to the additional insight, you know, that has to be made or that will be made, you know, and you know, Will's construct, and everybody that brings, you know, what they do to this table. There's times we rely on their expertise and their background too as well, so, anyway.
Yeah, we kinda do that stuff as needed. I think the guys ended up with a heater in Terry's shop last year.
You said that poll was you say that poll was 1963?
Yeah, that one,
You know, it's even scarier. How old I was in 1963. I mean, that's, that puts things into perspective a little bit, so.
yeah,
It was 7.
I wish they would've just done the rest of the transmission line when they did the rest of the project, but it didn't get done for whatever reason, and I think it's gonna have to be done next year.
And you've already, and we've talked, and council knows, just, but for the record, I mean, there's been extensive talk about knowing what cost is gonna happen with that comes in, it's being budgeted, and it's not like it's,
Right, it's close to $1 million.
yep.
Are those 65-foot poles?
Yeah, right in there. That's what one tag was.
New racetrack lights?
So I got 4 down there. Pretty good shape. If you get in the blind.
You're they.
Plus some more, other than them, they need more.
Hmm.
Okay.
Kind of jump into that page 39 then, you know, have the new pool on there. I know there's been some discussion at council. Just want to know kind of what we want to budget, if we want a number to throw into the budget on there. There's a lot of inner workings, maybe some commentary on that aspect.
You guys didn't have an estimate for that?
No, we didn't. We didn't pull one together.
I think
I
there's,
understand there's a lot of planning on it, and that's one of those that's, it's
I think
tough
there's,
to put a high level number to.
and I think there's still quite a bit of planning that needs
Yeah.
to go into that as far as what was planned before might not be the pool that's envisioned now
Yeah.
in today's world and today's cost, but we know that there's gonna have to be an extensive fundraising effort on that before that comes fruitful or reality.
Right.
So I don't even know if we could
Yeah.
put a specific year or priority on it, other than we know our pool is starting to deteriorate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's my question. How much longer is this one gonna last before
I would say
the committee gets going?
this needs to be on a 5-year or less plan, or we're gonna go without.
I would-
here
Well-
shortly.
Yeah,
I would agree. We
But-
should definitely start,
Yeah.
And we've, not everybody sees it, but we have actively been working on the plan, at least the last year. It's just been a process with engineers and
yep.
stuff like that.
And then also, I've been in contact with a number of representatives from Senate cities, and, you know, I'm gonna reach out to a couple more, and then get back to, I know, the one in Lennox, who is having one, theirs is almost completed now, and then a couple of us. So I've been trying to gather some additional information, you know, moving forward with regard to it, to help proceed with regard to, you know, solicit things. So it may appear that nothing is actually being, but I rest assured it is, you know, we're trying to gather the information needed so we can proceed.
And
With it.
also, I wanna input that for budget purposes, when Ted Dickey was here last, and Camden, were you in the room when he mentioned that land and water conservation grant? You weren't, okay. Before, they were giving for pools. They were pushing pools. Well, now, Ted is saying that they've kind of backed off on wanting to give for pools. So I feel like maybe we've missed the ship on that. But we can still apply.
Another reference would be the city of Canton. They went through
Yeah.
a large fundraising, you know, deal. They were trying to build it during COVID, so they had some of the cost escalations. And that pool is in construction right now, so,
And that's one of the places that I've
yeah.
had a contact, yeah.
Yeah, cause not everybody knows, but last year, before the pool could open, there was a very extensive repair session just to be able to get it to open,
Yep.
hold water.
Yep.
And luckily enough, a majority of them repairs had held, but those are the types of repairs that are on a year-to-year basis. So that's where we're at with our pool is we're a year-by-year basis on if it's going to hold water, if we're just pumping water in as fast as it's leaving.
Right. And, you know, through the facility report, we did identify some of those improvements, but through conversations with the department heads, you know, it rolled into the conversation of a new pool and trying to do those minimal effort projects every year to make sure still have a pool, but, you know, not do invest a ton of money into it just for next year to have it demoed. We can leave that one TBD now. I know there's a lot of items that are in the play. It's a big project. It takes a lot of work. So if we leave it TBD now, we can still have a placeholder within the capital improvement plan. This plan doesn't die, so that's where it can play and fit in at a later date too. So with the street shop, there was a few projects within there too. You know, power distribution supply, replace some unit heaters and water heater, exterior doors, wall panels, look at a salt and sand storage structure as well. So working through those, I don't know if there's any additional input from your end on there.
The power distribution needs to be looked at, priority one. The main one of them, there's like a big box and a small box. I'm not an electrician by any stretch. But the main comes in and goes to another box, and the main on the box is shot. We had to go to a different place to get us by. If we get super cold, we turn our heat down a little bit to not have to man, cause it'll take the main breaker off. Put new main in, new breaker, it's right at max. So, if I don't need electricity, it don't get put on. So it needs to be looked at. The way I got it set up, 2 heaters do the most work in the main shop where it's warmer, so we can work on stuff. We have 2 other heaters that are just, we set them down and they just kick in when they need to. But when it's super duper cold, sometimes they kick on, and I think that's when our breakers are going. Sure. It's just, what, 200 amp coming in, or it's 400 amp going in, the other box is 200. And
I actually have.
3 or 4 50s coming in, and then one box goes to the back room, and that's 100 amps, so it's just overload.
Remind me, do you have that foil backed insulation in the shop, or is it bare steel?
It's like that 3.5 inch garbage, and then we glue it in since
Okay.
then. When Jim Hilmer was working here, well, when they built the fire hall, we glued it all in, and
So
then we
there's-
insulated the top with 8-inch.
So there's some insulation value in the building. I just couldn't remember if that one was.
The walk doors are probably the worst, but you got a 12-foot by 12-foot door opening all the way up to put a loader in or something, that helps so much. If there's somebody there, we'll stop it early if we don't have to go all the way up just to keep that heat in. Depends on what if it's a pickup, stop it at 6 foot, drive underneath it.
Okay.
Salt sand storage, someday we're gonna have to have our salt sand out in
Is,
the weather.
is, okay, that's what I was gonna ask. How big, when you do something of that sort, what size of a structure are you looking at, Ron?
What I do is go measure my pile and have to go from there. I don't even know what size it is. I'll truly be honest with you.
Because that would,
That'd be an open-ended structure?
Something similar to what the state
Kind
has.
of like them
Yeah.
dome things, whatever.
Okay.
Like concrete walls.
I
get
don't
up
know
to
how they
4
work
foot.
as far as the salt, if the salt can heat on that metal, if they're open like that, but it'd be good enough for me. It just needs to get out of the weather, out of the rain.
A lot of times also work footing's so high, I'm wired a few of them, that way that salt's sitting against that concrete, not against that
hoop
Sure.
building.
roof part.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say that we can keep a line item of maintenance to existing buildings as a general rule.
Yep.
We can look at a loader on electrical. I think at one point I was thinking you were really wanting 3-phase in there, and I was thinking that's down the road a little bit. Asphalt and all that stuff,
I was working on Billy. I've been working on electric guys for a while.
As far as getting just checking everything over and see what your load is, I mean, even your lights are gonna help a lot, but
Oh, yeah.
get a new, we need to get a new main breaker in there and turn everything on, see what you're drawing.
Ron, you brought up about the doors were really tight for you to get the snow plows in.
Yes.
Is
my,
it-
My moldboards on the road graders are 14 foot and the doors are 12, so you gotta make sure you got them all the way in.
Is there any room where a guy could widen them, put a wider door in?
Go and do it if you
Or
can. I
you-
don't know, I don't do that work, so I don't know. I'm the wrong guy to ask that question. It would sure be nice to be a 14 foot door. They only need to be 12 foot high, but they need to be 14 would be great. That building we were talking would be multiple. I'd like one door to be at least a 16 foot wide, because if I put a V-plow on my blade, it will not go through a 14-foot door. The top, the tips of the V is wider than that.
Cause both,
The way it's made, you know.
both the street shop and the water and police shop, those are Z-Perlin buildings, aren't they? They got that ledge on the wall, they're all metal,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
they? Okay. I know a lot of times they're having issues with, you can get people to put them up, but it's tough to get people to come back and work on them now.
Columns aren't right there.
Not saying it can't be done, or someone even local can do something, but I know it's challenging.
Okay.
I actually, you know, I got Dan that works with me, and he's a pretty good carpenter. I thought about asking him on doing the outside tin, cause that tin's all, it's just years and years and years of being dinged from plowing snow on a big windrow, and blade will slide into the building, and I mean, we try not to, but it just happened. See if we could do the tin ourselves, maybe that's beyond our capabilities. I have no carpenter, my dad was a telephone man. I didn't learn any carpenter from him, so.
I've been past it thousands of times, but now that I need to think about it, I can't think of it. Is that a split tin where the bottom piece is different, or is it all?
one,
It's
all
all
one.
one. Okay.
And then as far as your heaters are on, I don't know if you wanna buy a budget, get some new ones, replace a few, or, I mean, instead of doing the parts, I just think if you buy a whole new one, they're gonna be more efficient. And that'll help your power savings too.
Kind of build that in my budget every year with this.
I was thinking they're
Wanna
like-
go haywire, and now, just kind of build it there. It's
Like
like,
last time one day, I was thinking they're like 1,200 a piece.
I don't remember.
They're about a grand. So they're downforce.
They push it in. Since we've insulated, we used to have six of the same heaters, now we're running two on a normal winter day minus the, when it gets below zero, you can throw that out the deal, but it was 6 heaters, when you worked under a truck, you had a coat on. When I started a long time, 1988, so it's been a while. We've improved it a bunch, there's room for more improvements.
Okay.
And a lot of the rest of this improvement plan is kind of a take back what we did tonight and then rebuild this stuff. Okay.
Yep. What you'll see, I mean, really the next thing to focus on would be like that page 33 will have all the projects, all the lists, costs associated with year, you know, based on what we have here.
Okay.
So let's take this prioritizing. Just a couple other things that, just to discuss, there were, some input on equipment, budgeting for equipment, so a sewer jet truck, 2 new pickups, and a 1-ton truck with crane too. So just keeping in mind some of those equipment needs, those ones normally sneak up pretty quick, and then it's trying to budget a large amount for that, so.
Yeah.
And we can talk to them, but would you, say that again, that list? These
A sewer jet truck,
Yep.
2 new pickups, and then a 1-ton truck with a crane.
And I didn't actually, I'm not even on that list, but yeah, eventually we'll probably be looking to pick up some of that.
Yeah. And a lot of those stuff, normally, we just, it's on
Yep.
their department budget,
Yeah.
just some, you know.
And that's a good point, because if, in the cases, each of the department heads, if they know something is kind of coming up where they need to, they, you know, kind of prepare for that with regard to the budget, with regard to anticipation in 2 or 3 or 4 years, this is what, you know, something that's gonna be needed too, so.
Yep. And this document I see
Yeah.
goes hand in hand, very close with that, with the budgeting, right? Kind of gets it on paper. It's,
The sewer jet truck, the 1-ton truck with crane, what was the other one?
2 new pickups
2 new pickups.
for the water sewer departments. And then, just from some of the comments that are floating through here too, think it'd be good if we just have a single line item for that space analysis study, for that future shop, right? If we do space analysis study, that'll really give the input on, how large that building looks, you know, make sure it's efficient, will be big enough to fit everything, be a low dollar study, and then that would turn into, okay, here's a project. Or we could just use some assumptions, you know, 3 doors, 60 foot deep, which would get X long, that get us approximate square foot, and be able to throw a dollar on that too.
I'd be curious to know what a building like that
Yeah, runs.
would do. Not saying that it is something that is, I'd just be curious to see.
I had a question. Police car?
They just did one.
Yeah.
But when will you do that? I mean, it's got pickups and stuff on here. Don't we do one every 3 years?
It should be on the list, but.
Most of the stuff is
There's-
stuff that's already in,
Yeah,
Ted already
there's-
has that kind of stuff in his budget.
You're just gonna do that in this budget?
Most
Yeah,
of the
there's
stuff
gonna be
is,
some
yeah.
of those nuances where there's a lot of stuff within the budget that are taken care of, you know, by the department heads already, very good at that. And looking at some of those, call it non-recurring expenses, you know, some of those bigger ones that come up, you know, every so often. So it seems like you guys have a decent rotation on your cars, understanding what you need to budget for.
And just for clarification, what we're coming out of this capital improvement plan with is to help address our budget. We're not looking to go out and secure outside funding to replace all this stuff. This is just for our budgetary reasons that are gonna come out of the department heads' budgets or the general fund. We're just making a plan to do it out of that said budget.
Prioritizing the items that as needed, as, you know, and moving forward with regard to, yeah.
That pulls me through the list. Now, anything additional from you guys that you've been thinking, hearing, seeing around the community?
You'll need water tower coatings sometime, maybe, you expect a 20-year life, it'll be in 7 years.
Okay,
That's just an exterior.
yeah.
Probably what you do is an exterior overcoat and then a full interior sandblasted recoat. But that's all gonna be evaluated, and that's assuming that you do good maintenance on your tank. Every couple of years, you gotta look at it and fix stuff.
Thank you for that, yes. What was that, Ron?
Well, when they built that tower, the company that's painted it to win, and then it got
Bubbly.
painted again, they had bad paint, painted again, it's got multiple coats on it, I don't know how many. There's a run so big if the sun's just right, you know where to look, you can see a shadow.
Okay.
The run makes a shadow.
I'm gonna,
If the sun's gotta be just right, we were
I didn't know
talking about it, you can see it. So,
okay.
But that's a good one to bring up, even
Yes,
though
and
it's
thank
7
you,
years
Camden.
out, we're looking at 5-year, we can put that in the
It's easier
future.
to know it 7 years in the future and plan for it
Absolutely,
than
got it on the list.
we have to do this
Nice.
Yep.
next year and
Yep.
gotta figure out the money for it.
Yes, it is. The
Okay.
upside down onions.
Any other questions?
You have what you need from us?
I think so, yeah.
Justin, we really appreciate your assistance on this endeavor project. We have you, you know, moving forward, so I
Yeah.
want to thank you.
Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys' help, your input, and all the staff's help too. It takes time all around, so thank you
Okay,
guys.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay. Camden Hofer is up next. Camden is our SPN consultant, if you will. Is that a good word, consultant? You betcha.
I've been called a lot worse.
Just need a short break.
Do you-
or someone walked out. Dale walked out.
Do you wanna, does he wanna, we okay to move on?
No.
Mine will take probably 5 minutes, so
Okay,
hopefully, pretty simple.
let's,
Go ahead if we need to, if we come to something that we need
Yeah, we can always tell him later.
to last.
okay.
So Terry Manning asked me to look at Donlin Street sanitary sewer. Right now, we're planning on, should we pull up Google Earth, Cindy, or, okay, sorry.
Thank you very much,
That's
Justin.
the one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great
We are
report.
currently planning, basically one long block of sanitary sewer on 8th Avenue. And we talked about eliminating a part of that, so that red line there, we'd eliminate that line going north of Donlin.
The
If we
whole
had-
line, the whole red line?
Yep,
Okay.
just that line going north of Donlin, that
Not the
north
whole
half.
line.
Oh, just from
there up.
here to
Yep.
here,
Okay.
From where to where?
the intersection
That-
is south.
From 4th Street to Donlin, we would install that. And then from Donlin north, we wouldn't install that.
Oh,
Okay.
So that would save, that would save roughly $110,000 to just cut that out.
Cut that out?
But
We don't. 'Cause we don't.
What's that, Jan? Okay,
Terry's talking about adding in Donlin Street, which was planned at one time, actually, a couple different times we planned to do Donlin Street. And so we have those plans ready to go. It's really no cost to the city engineering wise, just to add it in. It will cost an extra $47,000 above the current bid price to add Donlin in and keep that short block of 8th Avenue. So that would be the change order right now. If you wanted to do that, it would be about $47,000. And budget-wise, we have a huge budget remaining because we plan to do a whole bunch more that we cut out. And so we'd still have $239,000 in the budget.
It's new from the highway to that intersection.
Yes. From the highway up to 4th Street is new.
Isn't that where you live, Will?
I just didn't know where they quit at.
Because then that new section would go all the way to the east of straight Donlin Street.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we take it all the way to the east and off to the edge of where that paving ends. To the east of there, we can run it all the way out, and there's a city right of way that's way out that runs north and south. We could put a manhole way out to the end and have an invert facing the south, so you could actually run the sewer south if you wanted to and develop lots down there someday. And it looks like you could, by doing the sewer, you could have maybe about 4 to 6 new lots over there, just on Donlin. Just depends how the lots are sized and stuff. 3 to 6, somewhere in there.
And the reasoning, not everybody knows this, but the reasoning why a lot of this has changed is the Rustler Drive, that's a technical name for it, isn't it?
The
Rustler Development.
Rustler lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is getting put on hold from on hand.
yeah.
That is just with the way it is now, with the timing with the city and the rates are at, they're gonna just put a hold and pump the brakes on that, and then they're gonna reassess it after this project. Cause they're actually putting in the overfill from phase 4 there,
Yep.
and that might alleviate a lot of dirt costs, cause then they won't have to take dirt from other places to fill in, so they're just gonna reassess. So that's what's changing on the city end, because that, we're not gonna provide, we're not gonna take services up there without the guarantee that
It's gonna get
that's
developed.
getting installed, as of right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Patrick's our, for the Patrick's our representative from the council with regard to on-hand economic development too. And then we had a meeting the other day with regard to this project, and then the funding that was going to be available. So that was based the decision of the direction we're going now.
So I realize no decisions tonight, but I can put a change order together and have this to the council for the next meeting or sometime soon. And that's when you can decide officially to go ahead with it. I just wanted to get a general consensus, I guess, and to see if I go ahead with that or if there's any discussion.
My personal feelings is that the money is in the project budget, and it is a lot less money to get that area developed. That being said, that area hasn't changed in 20 years, so I'm both ways.
Yeah, and you indicated too, as far as the cost, as far as engineering fees is,
No additional.
okay, so I want to make that perfectly clear with regard to that too as well.
I would much rather see that developed. I would be all for it.
And then the decision can be made at another, if we're going to move forward with it.
Well, we need,
Can't we
next
go ahead and
meeting,
Put a change order together,
Yeah.
then we can have a discussion, vote
Yeah.
on it
Yeah.
in the future.
Yep.
Okay, I'll put that together.
Yeah, I
if
just,
we had that stuff installed in that area that's right on existing streets and existing dirt work, could be developed a lot easier than
Yeah.
the proposed in north. Not saying that's not gonna happen, but
Yep.
as of right now, it makes more sense to
Yeah.
spend our money here than elsewhere.
but I also, and I concur with you, but I also want to make sure that we stay in compliance with the agenda, that no official this action will be taken other than.
Just a discussion.
Other than
Yeah,
to have-
yeah. No, I get it. I get it, but I just want that perception that, with regard to it.
I think that's all I needed. Any other questions or?
And again, with Justin, Camden, you make our job, I mean, with the information provided by you and your services that we appreciate. It takes so many entities working together for the betterment of all the communities involved. And I allude to Ted Dickey with regard to NECOG too, with regard to what they do for us too, so it's greatly appreciated.
Yep. Pleasure working with you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Yep, you too.
I would just like to ask, is there any questions after all of that from the public on anything? Or addressing? Or
You know,
just
and
kind of
that's,
faces?
and that's the one thing too, if you have any questions or concern, reach out to one of us. You know, and sometimes we can put certain things to rest that don't even need to, get started, or just if there's additional information we need to be thinking about, or, that we're happy to do that. I mean, we're here representing our community, we want to, do that to the best of our, ability to do so, anyway.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming, too. I'm serious.
8:14. Yes.
You would have been late.
I guess so. I don't know why I had it tomorrow.
Figures out. I was ready to check it.
If I bring a committee sheet from that meeting, is it still in time, or
I don't know, I just.
For
that big meeting we had with, on hand and
Yeah.
canned it? Okay.
get it in,
I'll-
date it,
Yeah.
turn it in.
I have it. It's
Okay.
just, I didn't slip it under the door.
Okay.